Live from WTOC, the Southeast news leader. The News Now starts on WTOC Plus.
Would like to thank you all for joining us this morning for the news on WTOC Plus. I'm digital anchor Jude Binkley. As wintry conditions head into the area, county emergency management agencies are preparing their resources. We spoke to Effingham and Bullock counties on how their emergency management agencies are set to respond. Effingham has seen this before, and their management agency is readying back up for the snow. Deputy Director Shanna Smith says they're using the skills they learned from last year's snow and icy conditions to better educate citizens this time around.
I just encourage people to stay off the road because we had a lot of single rollover accidents last year. Just driving, the vehicles are top heavy, some of them, so they tend to roll really easily. So just trying to make sure that we have safe roadways because, people do have to work.
Bullock County's Director Corey Kemp says everything went smoothly last year during the snowfall. He plans to tell folks to avoid going out in the icy conditions and take big precautions around bridges, which are the first to freeze over. And talking about these slick roads we could see this weekend, Georgia Department of Transportation crews are gearing up for the threat of snow. Across the state, the DOT has replenished nearly 2 million gallons of brine from this past weekend. There are 570 snow removal units being mobilized across the Peach State. Well, this is just into our newsroom. An update on a story we've been following for a couple of weeks now. 6 people are now behind bars in connection to that $40,000 theft at the Best Buy last month. That all took place over a 2-week period. Savannah police confirmed the arrests, including one of them who was an employee from the store. A Savannah police report confirms that employee, 20-year-old Dorian Allen, was part of the scheme to steal $40,000 worth of merchandise. Police say Allen told investigators he was being blackmailed by a, quote, hacker group who threatened to release nude photos he had posted on Instagram if he didn't help them steal from the store. He claimed the hacker sent him emails with descriptions of who he should allow to steal merchandise. So far, Dorian Allen, the store employee, and Savannah Pendergraph, Shabria Summers, Brenda Gardner, and Leslie Bostick have been booked into the Chatham County Jail. We just got this into our newsroom that another arrest was made regarding this for Crystal Small as well, so that was the 6th arrest. The suspects are being charged with theft by receiving stolen property. The employee is being charged with theft by taking. Additional arrests are expected. Again, just into our newsroom, we've learned a 6th person was arrested overnight. Well, in Glenville, the city council voted to terminate Fire Chief Dale Barnard effective immediately. It comes after the GBI arrested the fire chief on several charges, including child molestation. The 66-year-old is charged with aggravated child molestation and criminal trespassing. The GBI says Glenville PD responded to a 911 call from a child reporting Barnard entered his home and molested him. Evidence recovered from the home supports the child's report that the GBI has. Barnard was booked into the Tattnall County Jail on Wednesday. Turning now to state news, a federal raid is rattling Georgia State Capitol, freezing progress on issues that families say can't wait. Lawmakers spent more than an hour arguing over the 2020 election on Thursday. That all comes after the FBI seized materials from Fulton County's elections office. But parents, students, and advocates were standing just outside the chamber, urging lawmakers to move forward and deliver for the people of Georgia.
This is not about 2020. This is about 2026. This is about who controls what comes next.
It is extremely frustrating because you want to go backwards. We're trying to go forward. We need help where it's in 2026. We need help for the now.
Lawmakers will be back under the Gold Dome Monday. Nearly a quarter of the way through the legislative session now, major deadlines to vet and vote on bills are approaching fast. And speaking about some of the bills we are tracking under the Gold Dome, Georgia lawmakers want to wipe out your property taxes, and now they have a bill to make that happen. Some local governments worry the loss of revenue could do damage to their budgets, however. Political reporter Doug Reardon with our sister station explains this won't happen right away.
Property taxes across Georgia have risen at an unsustainable rate.
Republicans in Georgia's House, led by Speaker John Burns, announced their plan to completely eliminate property taxes in the state by 2032.
Georgia House Republicans believe no one should ever face the loss of their home because they can't afford to pay rent to the government.
The plan slowly doubles homestead tax exemptions until they're gone, but with property taxes acting as a main source of revenue for local governments, including school systems, there's concern over how it'll be made up.
And I think it does rethink the way that we fund local governments, and that's part of what we're doing here.
The bill suggests municipalities raise or repurpose local sales taxes, reassess services like fire, water, and sewer, or simply spend less. The bill, called the HOME Act, would require a constitutional amendment, and GOP lawmakers in the House need to convince 21 of their Democratic colleagues that this is a good idea.
That's always my main concern when talking about property tax relief, is how do schools supplement their funding?
For new Democratic lawmaker Bryce Berry, a school teacher, the main concern is loss of revenue for education.
I hope there are things in the bill that mitigate harm towards school districts so that they can recover losses from property taxes.
Doug Reardon, Atlanta News First.
Well, from state to national news, we want to turn to the looming partial government shutdown slated to potentially start tonight. Senate Democrats and the White House did strike a deal on a spending package that addresses the Democrats' concerns over ICE funding. However, lawmakers then left overnight without taking a vote, with leaders on both sides of the aisle blaming each other for the delay. CBS News' Jared Hill has the latest developments.
The Senate stands adjourned.
Senate lawmakers left for the night without voting on a spending deal struck by Democrats and the White House.
Gotten along very well. We're working on trying to get it to stay open.
President Trump played up his role in the breakthrough as Democrats pushed for reforms to federal immigration enforcement.
We'll work in a very bipartisan way. I believe not to have a shutdown. We don't want a shutdown.
Under the agreement, senators would vote on 5 bills to fund multiple government agencies through September. A 6th bill, funding the Department of Homeland Security, would be removed. Instead, lawmakers voting to keep funding at current levels for 2 weeks. That giving time for talks on how to reform ICE, the agency overseen by DHS. The effort sparked by the shooting deaths of 2 U.S. citizens by federal agents in Minneapolis.
Enough is enough. What ICE is doing outside the law is state-sanctioned thuggery, and it must stop.
Democrats want to change the rules governing warrants, put an end to roving patrols, require body cameras, and ban agents from covering their faces. The question, will enough Republicans sign on?
I'm willing to entertain some reforms to make sure that we rein in ICE appropriately and make it more professional. But the cancer that we're dealing with is sanctuary city policy.
If the Senate passes the spending deal, it still has to go back to the House, which doesn't return until next week. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Turning now to sports news, the Atlanta Falcons have found their new general manager. The team has reportedly hired Chicago Bears assistant general manager Ian Cunningham. Cunningham's hiring comes after former Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski was named head coach of the Falcons. All right, this is a pretty fun one. They're dressed to the nines, just not 9 degrees. 20 penguins make the Long Island Aquarium in New York home, and even these birds need a warm-up.
They're dressed to the nines, just not 9 degrees. 20 penguins make the Long Island Aquarium home, and even these birds need a warm-up.
It can be too cold even for a penguin. There's a lot of penguins that never see ice in their lifetime.
These guys have about 70 feathers per square inch.
They're South African penguins, and when temps plunge below 30 degrees, it's more than cold feet. Their waterproof feathers aren't built for Arctic air. They're indoors, waiting for a warm-up. They're among the 5,000 creatures at the aquarium for whom temperature control is critical. A giant generator keeps it all running through storms.
Some of our habitats are 42 degrees, some of them are 84 degrees. We do have our life support systems here. They support life.
Some residents thrive in the chill. This river otter family frolics in frigid waters thanks to their thick fur. Harbor and gray seals bask in icy salt water, but other outdoor habitats need a little help.
Smile.
The sea otter steals the show, 400 pounds of blubber, but still a little radiant heat behind the scenes, warming things up between tricks and kisses.
A very sweet kiss.
And who is that keeping warm under a heat lamp?
Our owl is normally outside most of the time. We do spoil her also, and we have a radiant heater for her.
Carefully monitored by staff staying overnight through storms to ensure everyone is warm or cold enough.
Doesn't matter what the weather is, snowstorms, hurricanes, anything, staff is going to be here.
Now, this part of the aquarium has to stay downright balmy. It's 80 degrees here for the 600 to 800 butterflies in this tropical habitat.
From coral reefs to snowy shores, climate control is relative. These penguins will be back outside when the weather suits them. In Riverhead, Long Island, Carolyn Gussoff, CBS News, New York.
All right, so just a reminder there, even if the Penguins themselves can't handle the cold this weekend, that's a good reminder that you should definitely be bundling up, prepare, make sure you and your family are safe as we, of course, prepare for potential snow really across the region Saturday afternoon and evening. Andrew Gordon will join us at 11 at the top of the hour to talk about exactly what we're expecting as we're now just over 24 hours out away from that potential snowfall. So he'll join us with the latest on that. We also do have a programming note here on WTOC Plus, streaming live today at 2:30, this week's episode of Governing Georgia, the WTOC Plus show, where every week we take you under the Gold Dome to break down the bills moving through the Georgia legislature and explain what they mean for you, your family, and your community. You can stream that live right here on WTOC Plus and the WTOC Facebook page at 2:30 this afternoon. We also take questions on the Facebook. If you'd ever like to ask something, we'll do a little Q&As sometimes at the end of those shows. So always like a little bit of your engagement as well if you're watching on Facebook. All right, with that, we are going to wrap things up here for the news on WTOC Plus. Thanks for joining us this morning. Again, we'll be back in 45 minutes with an extended look at your potentially snowy forecast. So join us for that at 11 o'clock. We'd like to thank you all for watching, and here's Local News Live.